All right, all right, all right.
Hello today. Good evening. I'm hanging out with my friend Drake.
I'm hanging out with my friend Cory, my old buddy Cory. I haven't seen him in years. It's good to catch up.
So the main thing, and honestly, you and I had just been, like, you had just popped into my head, and a friend of mine and I were just talking about you, and he caught up with you recently, and I was like, man, I would really like to catch up with that guy. It's been so long, and like, then I started thinking about it. Like, I'm like, we know each other. What am I
Yeah.
doing not messaging you? So I messaged you, and the idea of it, for the most part, was supposed to be just like a mental health check-in. I just wanted to see how you were, because like this is something that us guys should do for each other, especially people
Yes.
who've been around the wrestling business and been taking this damage to their bodies for
Yeah.
so long. It can do some damage to the brain. And maybe we don't check in with other people who are as like-minded as we are as often as we should.
hmm
So, with that being said, how's your mental health? How's everything going?
Well, man, right now it's solid and strong, but it goes in waves. And first off, man, I appreciate you just like sending me a message like off the rip out of nowhere. Like it meant a lot. And I try to do that, and then I'm sure you can resonate with this. Like through the hustle and bustle of life, you just get caught up in your own stuff, and then like online, you're like, oh, man, I wonder how brother's doing, and
Yeah.
so that just meant a lot to me. It really did, and we guys, especially those of us that come from this crazy world of professional wrestling, and that are come from the era that we started in as well. That kind of that early 2000s, type crowd. We're thinking it was a much different landscape then, and I think the business has changed a lot for the better in a lot of ways nowadays. But yeah, we should absolutely check in, and look, not to get like super serious, from the jump here, but you and I mean, we can't it takes more than two hands to count how many of our comrades are no longer with us, right? That we wish we could have just like checked in with them. And now we have those avenues to be able to do that. So that just really meant a lot to me personally. Also, I think it is absolutely amazing for you folks watching Evolving with Cory Kastle at home. This man has had the same phone number for over 2 decades. That is a rare feat when it comes to a professional wrestler. We can't keep the same phone number for 2 weeks at times. I remember my days of starting out in CZW. That was the MySpace days, kids. I had a
Yeah.
prepaid cell phone that cost 5 cents per text message back then. And Maven Bentley would message my flight information on MySpace. That's how me and Scotty Vortex got into CZW. So,
Do you remember back then when you'd accidentally hit the internet button on your phone and you're like, ah! And you're like,
yeah,
and you're like,
roaming
I don't
call,
want
roaming call. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I'd run out of minutes all the time, but you know, it,
to.
yeah, I was talking about how the business is changing, and like, but you're talking about mental health, man. Dude, like, I'm on the bounce back season of life, man. I mean, it's pretty public and it's out there. Like, uh, I've had a fantastic. I've been fortunate to have a fantastic career in pro wrestling. Seen the world many times, worked with the absolute best of many different levels at wherever I've gone. And my recovery was incredibly important to me. And I life happened, life showed up, as we say. And I fell off the wagon, and I lost my marriage as well. But the part of that is like I can't change the past. Like the past is the past. I can shape my future though by my actions today. And so I did go to treatment, and WWE has been amazing, and they helped me out with that and everything, and their treatment program is like top notch, phenomenal, and went to a fantastic treatment facility, and I my sobriety is the most important thing in my life today. It really is, and I think the by having what I had and then losing it, it made me really appreciate life a lot more. As I'm sitting here before you today, Valerie and I, my ex-wife, she's my absolute best friend. She's forgiven me for the wrongs that I did. I'm consistently showing up. I'm being responsible. Outside of wrestling, I work a couple jobs where I'm in a management position. Again, it's not the most glamorous thing in the world, but dude, I'm showing up and I'm being responsible. And then, I'm still in the wrestling world because I'll say this: it is way more difficult to step away from than alcohol and drugs.
Right. It
But
is an
it it's a good outlet for me now, and it's good business for me now. And what is awesome for me and what really helps my mental fortitude and what gives me joy and satisfaction is not only obviously showing up and providing for my family, right? But and righting the wrongs and the mistakes that I made. But showing others the right way and helping others learn from my mistakes, but also showing them the right way of what I've been fortunate enough to learn in this business of professional wrestling. I love getting in there with the newer guys nowadays. And I mean, dude, for 8 years, I part of my daily job was watching footage with Shawn Michaels or Terry Taylor for 3 hours at a time, and like you know what I mean. Like I've learned so much, and it's not only that, just the guys in Japan and everything. I just love. I'm blessed with what I've learned, and I want to pay it forward. And at almost 41 years old, I feel way better than I did when I was 21 when I first started in CZW. Like
you and I
physically
are the
I'm
same
better,
age,
mentally I'm better. So I today as I'm sitting before you, man, um, I am solid, my brother. I really appreciate that.
you and I were the same age, sir.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
we both kind of probably around started the same time. I mean,
Yep.
I started in CW in like 2001. I was a
Yes.
child, so
Yeah.
I don't think it was even MySpace days yet at that point.
It was not. No,
It,
it was not.
it
Yeah.
predated MySpace.
Yeah. It was like you called Zandig on a house phone type thing back.
Right, right, yeah,
Or like you hit him on his beeper.
right. Morse code.
Yeah. CKNY, man. Y'all were awesome, man. I'm pretty, yeah.
Bro, I've done so much more things that I'm proud of since then, but since that, like, not enough people pay attention to the shindies.
Yeah.
They don't know about it.
Right. Right.
It's
Exactly, man. So, yeah,
I'm
dude.
sure.
I mean, it's same with me. Like I've done, fucking been blessed to, I've worked WrestleMania, Cage of Death, and all this other cool stuff that like a lot of people to this day still remember me for like the solid death match with Thumbtack Jack in like 2007. There's like
I
certain things in our career that just like stick with us, and it's kind of a badge of honor as well.
do you ever get this brought up to you? I just saw somebody post this on TikTok today, where there was a match that you were in, and it was you and Grant, dude. R.I.P. Grant for sure. I love
Yeah.
Grant. Always talk about him in a very positive way. I love that kid, and
Yes.
he he. I like to take credit for uh, giving him his first pair of wrestling boots he ever had. Those black boots with the white soles they used to wear.
Oh
Those
yeah.
I gave those to him,
Those
but
lasted a long time.
did yeah. They went through hell. They would have never gone through that hell had I kept them.
Yeah, no doubt.
But but you and Grant were in there with somebody, and then like Necro and Toby came out with like a
Mhm.
traffic cone and was beating the crap out of you guys with a traffic cone the whole time. And that was in somebody's TikTok today.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well, dude, you know what's funny? I remember that was actually my arena debut. Me and yeah, Grant and I, we were like an instant connection, right? Because I debuted at the Tournament of Death like a month or two prior, and then like I just thought it was like a one off, right? And then like I'm driving home, and it's one of the only 2 or 3 times that like I talked with Zandig on the phone, and like, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna start bringing you in second Saturday of every month. I'm gonna have my ticket lady give you a ticket." I'm like, "Wait a minute, am I? They're getting me an airplane ticket now? Like what the fuck? This is crazy." But that was actually my that was September 2006, and first night at the arena. I was fortunate to be in the main event with me, Grant, and Deranged, Necro Butcher, and Toby Klein. And yeah, man, like that's so cool that that was on TikTok, and people are still showing footage of that. But yeah, that was a phase that Necro was going through where he was just using like traffic cones, and he's still big on guardrails. It was just like very like blunt objects. But you know what's funny about that match, dude? I remember this distinctly. It's 19 years later, but I remember being in the ring, and again, I'm just excited to be there, right? And you know how like sometimes, especially when security was like the Philly fans, they would like throw stuff in the ring to like be used. If it was like, even if it wasn't like a fans bring the weapons match or whatever, and like all of a sudden, like I don't know how it got in there, but I'm like selling, and I look over and I see a beer bottle, and this is a real deal. I mean, this is a beer bottle, and
Right.
then I'm like, and then I see Necro's leg, and I'm like, oh god, this thing's gonna get busted over my head, and I'm like, this is gonna hurt bad. And so I look up, and I just see the long beard Necro Butcher. And he has this beer bottle in his hand, and he just goes, "Love you, kid." And then baching! Like luckily it busted on the first try, because like there's been times where wrestlers have tried to do that, and it's just like backfired. They've had hate show like 4 or 5
It's just
times.
that hollow thud sound. Punk.
Yeah, and it's just like now that we're all educated, it's just like, oh, CTE, CTE, CTE. But like luckily it busted on the first swing, and
Never thought
and
anyone died in
yeah,
2000.
blood started pouring, man. And then like, got the nod from the dig from Zandig. Like when you come to the back and he just gives you the nod, like
Mhm.
job well done, type thing. So, yeah, memorable night, man. And dude, I'm glad you brought up Grant. He is, in my opinion, I think he's the greatest, deathmatch wrestler of our generation. I mean, they're top 5 ever for sure. He just was so creative, and he was so incredibly intelligent, not just with wrestling, but just with life in general. He would have random facts and random history that would come up, and
So
dude,
true.
I miss this. I miss the hell out of that guy so much, man. He was one of my best buddies, and like at that time, again, I was a young kid in my 20s. I would come into New Jersey and or come into Philly, and then I would like stay in New Jersey for a week, and just I had like no kids, no responsibilities, not a care in the world. I would just like be in New Jersey for a week, hanging out with him, and then like we would just stay up so late watching Big Japan VHS, like VHS tapes, and just like and back then, I mean, the guys nowadays I go have a match, and like there's like a highlight video of it before I even like hit the shower, right? But like back then, and you know this,
You had,
man,
you
like
had to, you had to
you
wait.
had to wait like 3 weeks for Smart
Right.
Mark Video to edit the DVD or whatever, and like we would watch our matches back, and we watch these Big Japan VHS, and it was like we were like, man, it'd be cool if we were there to there someday, and then lo and behold, in 2012 and in 2013, him and I got to tour Big Japan together. Like, just him and I. And that was some of the greatest times that we had was just being in Japan for 4, 5, 6 weeks at a time. And just like, it sounds cliche, but legit just living our dream, man. Like, I'll wrap up with this on this subject, but like, there's a distinct moment during from that period when Grant and I were in Japan where it was so awesome, man, because we had our like we got our root beer jackets right, and we went to Mr. Danger Steakhouse, and we got the Danger Steak jackets, and then like it was close to New Year's. It was early January 2013, and we went back to our hotel, and they had a representative from Big Japan come and meet us at the hotel, and like they wanted to bring us back for a longer tour, and like they had like paper contracts, right?
Mhm.
Like and like I remember like we sat down like in the hotel lobby, and like we sat across from each other. We had somebody take a picture. We're like signing Big Japan contracts for this like tour that we're going on later in the year, and like we were just looking at each other like, dude, this is freaking crazy, dude, like crazy, man. Like we were just watching this in your apartment a couple years ago, and like now we're in Japan. We're like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like moments like that. I just really encourage guys nowadays to just just absorb every moment and like take some time to like just stop and smell the roses of like and enjoy the fruits of your labor and like appreciate what you're putting in. It is a grind. It is absolutely a grind. This business will physically and mentally kick your ass like 100 times over. But when good stuff happens, man, it's like, dude, I'll hold on to that feeling for that'll get me through the week sometimes, man. And him, guys like him, JC, Nate Hatred, Justice Payne. I mean, unfortunately, the list goes on. But like guys where I've had little moments like that. Not as many as I did with Grant, but like, we're just like, man, like I'm glad we got to experience that. I'm glad like there's some pictures of that too. You know what I mean?
Well, like it's a similar thing. Not just friends that I'm talking about, but like when
Yeah,
it comes to certain people who I've had on the podcast before, I make sure I have to have this on the record where I'm having a conversation with them, letting them know that they mean this certain thing to me. And there's been
yeah.
certain friends on the podcast that aren't with us anymore, and I have that on record now, where
Wow.
it's to me I can go back and listen. Like
Yeah.
I had my longest episode I ever had of the podcast, 4 hours long conversation with Jimmy Rave on here.
Wow.
So I get to go back and listen to that, and I go, oh man, I
He
was
was
a
a good
different
dude,
guy back.
man.
I was a different guy back then. Like
Yeah.
my voice was different. I was like, oh my god, Jimmy Rave's here in my apartment.
Jimmy Rave's a good dude, and you know what? I think like early ROH, like there was man, dude, he was huge for that era. For that era, incredibly important, dude. Like he embodied like that early 2000s spirit, like the the shiny pleather pants, the fucking rockin' ass tan, like the long hair, charisma out the yazoo. You know what I mean? And like, yeah, he was a good dude, man. He was a good dude.
Like other comedian friends and other people you know like Billy Reel. I had Billy Reel on my podcast a couple times before he
Hmm.
died. It was like, all right, I get it. You can get your crap in. Like you can say all the stuff you want to say. Like
Yeah.
he wants to over grandstand like he does, but I just let him
Mhm.
do it so that I can go. Oh yeah, I wanted to make sure I told you on the record that like here's things that happened that I didn't
Yeah.
forget, and I want you to hear me say those things. And it's
Yeah.
cool that I now have some of that stuff back where I can listen back and have those friends, hear those friends saying like how much I meant to them too. And like it going back and forth. Or like I had a comedian friend of mine on, and I told him like he was right on the cusp. Like he just got signed to Comedy Central. He had all these like TV shows and all these pilots, and he was getting big. And I was like, dude, I know you're on the come up, and I just want to let you know before you get huge,
Yeah.
you've always been huge to me, man. I've always thought you were hilarious. You're a star. And he was like, that's how I feel about you. The exact way. I've
That's
always loved
awesome.
you. Always thought you were hilarious. And I'm like, yes. So,
Very cool, man. That's cool. You get to capture that, man. Absolutely.
and what I think is really cool about it too, like I don't know what I'll be like in 15 years, in
Yeah.
20 years. I can't tell you, but like I know I'll still be doing this. I
Yeah.
started doing this when I was 33. I'm 41 now. So it's
Right.
like I got all these years of on the record conversations, and then I can look at it as like a timestamp on where I was in the time capsule to be like,
Yeah.
oh, these are the kind of struggles I was dealing with at that point, and
Yeah.
this is like what my family relationship was like, maybe like if I'm in the stories I'm telling, because I'm for sure being as vulnerable as possible, because
Right.
this is shoot for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it's I, I hope it helps somebody else. I hope it helps other people too. But like, it's
Yeah,
mostly
man.
for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, dude, like it was just those moments in time that you get to see. I mean, people will tag me in videos that like maybe I not necessarily forgotten about, but just haven't seen in a while, and like I'll look at like there's like different eras of my run in wrestling that like I can just see myself and identify what is going on in my life at that time. Like when I'm like the chubby hardcore kid like just starting out, or like
Depending on
whenever I had
the body
yeah,
weight. And,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Like when I, first got sober, got in shape, or like, obviously when I was in WWE, and then, when I first came back, and then like when I lost a bunch of, there's just like all this stuff that I can certainly identify. Like, and like you said, I can identify what struggles I was going on, what were going on with me during that time as well. And,
Right.
the outlet of being on camera and us being able to perform, and, whether it's comedy or whether it's wrestling or whatever it may be, it's amazing for me. But also just being on here and avenues like this, and just getting to chat with a bro and in a productive manner, that's huge as well. So
I wanted to ask you something that I
ask
was
me anything.
always wondering. While you were refing, were you also like training and wrestling at the same time, or were you just like doing the body stuff? Dude, your tan was so on point, and Alyssa and I would always watch my fiance, soon to be wife. I would be
Yeah.
like, "Look how tan Drake is! Look how tan he is! It's ridiculous."
It took a little trial and error. That definitely took some trial and error. So, well, let me go over this here in a little bit of detail. So, first off, to answer your question, while I was there refing, was I training to wrestle? Absolutely not. I was learning a whole bunch of other things as well. So, came into ref, and just I think people might have know the story, but if they don't, long and short of it, I was brought in for a tryout in 2013 after the Performance Center just opened. Tryout went fantastic. I actually wrestled Ricochet in the Performance Center, like in a training match. And William Regal was the scout of the talent at the time, and he brought up the point, paraphrasing here, but essentially we could bring you in as a wrestler. You might have a decent little run, but I was, that was like the tail end of the time where like they were like it was like 6'5", 225, jack
Before,
dudes only type deal.
yeah,
Like Generico just came there, and Brian was obviously there, so they were kind of like breaking down the door for indie dudes, so to speak. Um, but he's like, but we have a need for a referee that can look the part, that has experience, because NXT at the time and now again, there's a lot of people that they recruit from other avenues of entertainment or sports, whether it's CrossFit or football or basketball or cheerleading, whatever it may be. And so, like, you got to think, you know, getting out of our independent wrestling minds for a little bit, like can you imagine having like your very first pro wrestling match like on a WWE show, like all these lights on you, and like it was just NXT at the Cocoa Beach Armory in front of 200 people. It's still a lot, right? You know what I mean? And so the purpose that I looked at for me to serve early on was just being a calming presence in the ring, also being somewhat of a player coach role as well, and just from being in wrestling so long, I know what I want out of a referee. So, okay, teach me the camera positioning, and the guys like Sean Bennett, Rudy Charles, Danilo Amphibio, Mike Chioda, who's the goat of refereeing in my opinion. They taught me a lot. They taught me ins and outs, camera positioning, this, that, and the other, how to handle yourself. And it's like, okay, cool. Now, like I know what I would want out of a ref if I was in the situation, right? So like I would just translate that into being a ref. So like my sole focus was on refing, and then eventually I learned, you know, building, tearing down the ring, maintaining the ring, making the ropes, all that. Um, backstage production. Eventually learned how to time live television, as well. And then, started booking the extra talent, doing payroll, doing medical paperwork, just wanted to learn everything I could. Right. And so there was nothing about me being in wrestling. As far as I was concerned, like that chapter was done. Now I will say, like when there was a need for a referee bump, like I would usually be the one that they would pick, or in class or at the performance center, I would get, hey Drake, come here, I want to try this, right? you know, um, and Cena actually tried something with me, like for like he had this like before he was going to wrestle AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble, that banger that they had. And like I'm upstairs in like the talent lounge area. Matt Bloom comes up. He's like, "Hey Drake, hey, come downstairs. Cena wants to try something." I'm like, "Huh?" He goes, "Cena, John Cena. You know who he is?" Like joking. Like,
Never
yeah,
heard
I'm
of
like, yeah, yeah. I heard it. I'm like, yeah. They're like, dude, it was crazy cool. Like Cena, like didn't even like warm up or nothing. He's just like grabbed me up and like did it once. He's like, "Okay, I think that'll work." And oh, and my camera just dropped.
You did the move to
And then
propose.
yeah, I did. It was just like that. And then like he just walked away and left. Like it was, so like random situations like that. Yes. But no, yeah, I was just solely focused on repping. Now, the tan game. Here we go. So again, like I said, this takes some trial and error. Now there's levels of tans, right? There's the 98 Hogan. There's
Oh shoot!
the Caribbean, right? And then like there's 2002 Triple H, where it's like jacked in like red, right? Like a red like tingler tan, right? Then there's my personal favorite, the 91 Arn. 91 Arn Anderson. That is the best tan in the world because it's a combination of the bed and the what we call the shoot rays, or like the legitimate tan from the sun. It's a perfect combination of that. The 91 Arn is the absolute best. Now it took me some trial and error, but and again, some couple times I went way too heavy. But
Wait, just for the benefit of those following along, let's do a checklist. We got the '98 Hogan,
98 Hogan,
and then we got
the
what do we got?
02 Triple H,
'02 Triple H, and then we got the
02
'91
Triple H.
R.
91 arm. That's the best one. 91 arm.
All right.
Yeah, 91 arm. So yeah,
Make
man,
a
like
checklist.
I always like how it is like coming into wrestling, like you got to tan, you got to work out, you got to have long hair, stuff like that, like that was
You
embedded
gotta
in
look,
this. So
you gotta look the
yeah,
part.
you got all three. You got all three. But I just so I've always been a tanning bed guy. But then like, being on the road a lot, I would see like a lot of the dudes using the spray tan cans. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense when we can't get to a bed. And then like, but it took some trial and error. So, the secret of the sauce is doing it the night before, kind of heavy, let it set in, shower or cardio in the morning, and then or cardio then shower in the morning, then maybe get a little bit of a legitimate sun, then like you are good to go for pay-per-view, bro.
Mm.
And I'm glad
There,
I could entertain you. But by the way, congratulations on your engagement.
thank
But
you.
I'm glad I could bring some joy to you and your lovely lady at home. A lot of times people will message me or like every night, especially when we were in Philly at like the Wells Fargo Center. There'd be people like in the second or third row go, "CC job, Drake," yeah. Like it'd be like stuff like that. But like I'm glad I could bring some joy to you guys from my TV tan.
What I liked that you did that I see some people don't get the memo. Like there's some people have this sloppy orange hands tan, and it didn't
Yeah,
seem like you ever once had that.
no,
The,
no, no, no.
the hands
You
were
gotta you
important
gotta
for
go
the
full
one
body.
two threes.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it was that and like the Planet Fitness stand up bed like 6 days a week.
Bro,
So between
you
that
gotta.
and 20 years of fluorescent light tube exposure, I mean, we'll see how it goes when I get older.
What a rough go.
Yeah, but now that I'm a true Floridian man, it's just par for the course now.
Well, yeah, now you just go outside.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Everybody in Florida is like 98 Hogan right now.
Getting there, yeah, for sure, man.
I, I could see me being that. I'm I'm also I was it was kind of entertaining me seeing recently that you're also doing security now. So that's something
Yeah,
else that I have in common. So we're both 2 decades long in the wrestling business, and in security as well.
yeah, absolutely, man. Look, like look, I got a family to take care of, and it feels good to be responsible, to show up and just
Mhm.
do what's needed to take care of my family and take care of myself and my obligations and everything. And look, I'm still in the wrestling game. I'm not at a point where I can do it, 12 times a month like I used to. But whenever I do get in the ring, I certainly earn my money, and I give the absolute best performance that I can for whoever's booking me. And so I have a solid solidity in that. And then like I've being here in Tampa, like I've really I love being out on the water, being out on the ocean. And like I've got into a gig where I've been promoted to managing like cargo ship operations here at the port, and then I have the typical like wrestler gig of being nightclub security as well, so on the weekends when I'm not wrestling. So, but I enjoy it. I love it. And dude, look, anything that I'm doing, whether I'm punching a time clock or whether I'm out there, wearing tights and entertaining people in pro wrestling, like I do it with my heart, man. I really do. And like it is, I'm not gonna lie, it's a grind. And I'm blessed with 5 children, and they're absolutely mean everything to me. And uh,
Five kids, five.
five, five.
That's a
We
whole
got a
head.
2-for-1 special in the last one. Twin
Okay.
boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, man. They're amazing, dude. They really are. It's the greatest gift and title I've ever been
Yeah, man.
received. Having a pie. And look, the economy is what it is these days. So like for me, I need to work multiple jobs, but whatever I do it with my heart. And look, dude, you talked about mental health earlier. Like there are some days like I don't know how the hell I'm going to get through the day, like or how the hell I'm going to get to next week. You know what I mean? Especially just keeping it 100 here, dude. Like like years ago I was just making gorgeous salary with WWE, right? And that came to an end. It's like, oh God, how do I replace all this? Like I have to work, I have to grind, and the those damn bills don't give a damn about our mental health. So a lot of times us dudes, we gotta just we gotta suck it up and show up. But like there are some days where I'm like, how the hell is this gonna happen, or how the hell am I gonna get through the next week? And like and then there are some days, dude, like after it's done, and like it's kind of a bumper stickery slogan, but like this too shall pass. Whatever difficult situation I'm going through, I try to use it as a lesson. I try to use it as fuel, and like I really just know that like it's not forever. It's not, and I'm doing the absolute best I can with the hands that were dealt with me, that a lot of my bad decisions have dealt to me as well. And I'm taking responsibility, dude. And I'm just showing up, man, and doing the best I
And
can. And through
not
that,
fair on
there are some days where I feel absolutely invincible because of that. You know what I mean?
right. You cliches are cliches for a reason. Like the
Yep.
same, they're tried and true. Like
Yes.
really, the you grow through what you go through, what you whatever, however that saying is. Like you
Yeah.
grow through from what you go through, or however that goes. Like that, all of that stuff is like all the stuff that you've survived, all the things that you've done. No regular person could do those things. No
Right.
other person could go through what you go through and like
Mhm.
still wake up and smile.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it speaks to us wrestlers in general as a whole, because I'm sure you can resonate with this, but like anytime I'm involved in civilian life, right, and like we are taught, and it's embedded in us, uh, to be respectful, to work hard, to treat people with kindness, to clean up, and and that's not necessarily so normal for in regular life, right? And so I think when us wrestlers that come from the world that we come through from, when we're put into that situation, I think we stand out generally in a great way because of those lessons that were taught to us in the business, right? And like it really translates over. And like I'll just say this to anybody, whether you're like just coming up like in the business, or whether like you're on having a hot run right now, or whether you're on your back nine, or the back end of your run, like I am, like there is absolutely zero shame in having like a 9 to 5 or a regular paycheck or whatever it is. Like you'll hear people be like, "Oh, bro, you like." There's been times I've made phenomenal money off wrestling. I bought a house. My kids live in that house. It's great, right? But like there are times where like I've fucking it doesn't get us through, right? And and so there's no shame whatsoever in doing what you have to do to get through life. So like, please don't let anybody knock you for like having a regular job, no matter what stage you're at, right? And just take what is taught to you in wrestling and translate it over. Like everything that I learned. Let's just say the 8 years that I was at the performance center, right? I learned so much about life. I learned how to do taxes and like learn like, travel logistics. Like I traveled the world for years before then, but like I learned actually, okay, I should wear business casual when I travel. I should represent the business well. Like, tip a little extra when I'm wearing a wrestling shirt. So that way they think well of the business. And like, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Open doors for people, help people in the airplane with their luggage. When, just like little stuff like that that just
Heck yeah.
represents the business well and just represents just like being a good human. I think that just really translates over. And anything that I've done since then, I've done everything from working, in fitness management to security to, like the typical Sopranos job of like waste management, but I wasn't involved in the bad stuff. Don't worry. But like, I've had all
Your
kinds of work.
typical Sopranos stuff,
Yeah,
waste
yeah,
management. Not what
yeah.
you're thinking. I
uh, but
the
like
way you walked it back.
whatever it is, like what I learned in wrestling helped me stand out. And like when I give somebody a resume, dude, I put CZW for 8 years, WWE for 8 years. Like I put that on there, dude. I
Right.
put my kids with boy. I'm proud of it, and we all should be.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough
I'm
for
getting off
people
my
to.
soapbox now. Sorry.
It's tough for employers to look at pro wrestling on your resume and know what to do with you. Like
Right.
they're like, and how is that? How does that translate to what you're going to be doing here? Or like
Yeah.
it's not a real huge resume builder unless it's ever been like something that you've made a full time living doing.
True,
And
but also, even like, let's just say just say you're just rocking the indies, right? But like, okay, if you're excelling at what we do, you're good at marketing because you have to market your character. You're good at merchandise. You're good at merchandising and taking inventory because you're making 8x10s and posters and shirts and all that. You're good at shipping and receiving because you have to send stuff to fans and everything like that. Um, yeah, you by default, you know how to do online marketing as well. You know what I mean? And um, you know travel logistics, like all that stuff. And like we all like if you spend a little bit of time backstage, even at like your decently high level independent show, you're going to absorb some of the productions side of things as well. And so like I really think what we do that we just kind of just naturally just get into that groove of doing, excuse me, really can stand out in another realm.
this is the phrase I've said about pro wrestling or pro wrestlers for a very long time. And please use it if you can ever apply it for anything. I always say, "We are dreamers selling dreams to other dreamers."
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man, dude, and that's so great. Because think about it, dude. Like, especially nowadays. Okay, somebody goes, like, next Saturday, I'll be at the arena in Philly, right? And for Battleground Wrestling, awesome company, right? There's people that are gonna wherever they're coming from, whether they're coming from South Jersey, whether they're coming from upstate, from Delaware, whatever, you know, they've worked all week, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, a day, whatever it may be. They're going to get in the car. They're going to spend time. They're going to spend time, spend gas, spend tolls. In that part of the country, coming to this show, they're going to pay for parking. They're going to find parking somewhere in South Philly. They're going to go to the concession stand. Roger's going to make some money there, right? They're going to go. They're going to buy a couple shirts. But what is great is like once that bell rings, like whatever is going on outside of that arena in regular life for them and for us, dreamers selling dreams to dreamers, like that stops. And for that 3.5 hours, whatever it may be, they get to like everybody's in on the gag nowadays. Everybody knows in an essence like what is up. They know we're not really trying to kill each other, this that, and the other. They know it's a show, right? Everybody's in on that now. Like that curtain's long gone, right?
Yes.
But what is great is people can live life vicariously through the stories that we're telling, through the emotion that we portray. That a lot of times in the moment is actual, real, raw emotion, dude. Like it really is through the drama, through the spectacle, just through everything that we are putting out. Like people get to just forget about what's going on in the world, what's going on in their life, and they can just focus on that and just like I like to say, like, dude, we're I'll just speak for myself. Like when I'm in the ring, when people are watching my matches, I want to take them on a ride. You know what I mean? Like most of the time nowadays, when people book me, it's going to be for like a pretty big match, generally like 20, 25 minute, a lot of times hardcore death match, whatever. And like, I want to take people on a ride, man. I want to get them hyped, get them going, dude. I want to get their emotions. I want them to make eye contact with them and just like really just like I want to see people on their feet and like not sitting looking at their phones. Like that's my goal. Is for people to just like get involved and just get on their feet and just fucking rock out, dude, and have a good time watching some fucking good pro wrestling, dude. Like that is there's nothing like that. And like I love what you said, man. Like we are dreamers because we have this dream that we're never gonna let go of, no matter what level of success we have. Like you know what I mean? Like fucking John Cena is still going at it now, and like you know what I mean? Like we all still chase that, and then the
John Cena
fans, the
never ends.
fans as well are still chasing that feeling, And so it's great when we can provide that for each other.
Yeah. It's an incredible life, and the idea. I constantly say it, and I wanted to make sure I just said it to you, and I'll go. We'll take it home with a hot dog and a handshake. I'll send you off into the sunset in just a couple minutes. But I wanted to say how important it is, and I always say the currency of people's effort and attention is so valuable, and
Yeah,
the fact that anybody has spent any time listening or watching or engaging with anything that I've ever done or said is so
yeah,
valuable to me. So like make sure you're careful with the things that you give your attention to. If
yeah.
if you find this valuable in your life, hit subscribe, follow,
Yes.
comment, get engaged with it. Because dude, I'm gonna keep going, and you can come with me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And you know what? I will. When you post, when you have clips of this ready or whatever, I will share this with my 5,000 Facebook friends and get it out there again because I love the thought of free thinking and just free form conversation as well. And it's also I have a question for you if you don't mind.
That was
I if we could
the
turn the
next
table
part.
for a moment.
The
Yeah,
next part was I was going to open it up to ask you because I'd like to say to you on the record because I did say it to you privately on the messages yesterday, but I wanted to be on the record where I have a note of it right here, and this clip exists for me to say like. Please, whenever you ever feel like you just need a friend or judgment-free conversation, if you feel like
yeah.
you don't have that, call me anytime. I'm always here. If you ever need me
Wow.
to be a
Yeah,
resource for you in any way, Drake, like It's a shoot. You call me anytime. I'm there.
That
When
means a
you're
lot.
coming to
Thank you,
Philly next
Cory.
week, you're coming to Philly next week. I live 5 minutes from the Philadelphia International Airport, so
Yeah.
you might swing by, say what's up.
Well, on the record, come to the arena. I'd love for you to be my guest if you'd like. We'll walk down memory lane together.
Cool. Yeah.
But yeah. So I want to ask you, right? So I came into CZW '06, right? There was a kind of a transitional period there. That ROH feud had just happened and everything like that. And there was, but during that like '02, '03, like after ECW was gone, and y'all were like in the arena and like having these crazy freaking shows and everything. Like, because I think from my time in CZW, I think our best roster during my era was like 2009, 2010. Like it was just absolutely stacked. Right? Like during the '02, '03, '04 era or whatever. Did you know that you guys had something special, or were you just like showing up to work? Like
Oh,
because the roster, dude, Indog, Prohibition, Justice Payne, Nick Gage, Wife Beater,
that's
Zandig, the best cages of death ever, like were happening at the time, and like
those
Ruckus on
ending.
top of the game, Sanjay Dutt, CKNY, like Blackout was just starting. Like, did you guys
I
know you had something special?
I felt all I wanted to do was see CCW do well. Like I thought, like I was a Philly. I'm a Philly kid, always been. So I was an
Yeah.
ECW fan. I went to ECW shows. I watched ECW on local Philly TV. I was like obsessed with ECW, and then I was a part of what I thought was going to be the next ECW, the next movement, and
Hmm.
I was just such a small spoke on the wheel because I was a
Sure.
kid. I was just a kid.
Yeah.
I wasn't like good enough of a wrestler yet. Like I didn't have experience. I didn't have a skill set yet. I was just kind of like
Right.
going through the motions when it came to being in the ring. But I remember watching the rest of the show and just always goosebumps. Always goosebumps. Everything,
So
everybody
the
was
goosebumps were
crowd
there.
pop goosebumps, crowd pop goosebumps. So I'm watching that and
Yeah.
observing it and then understanding like how I want this to be my matches. But like
Yeah.
the the time frame for me and CZW, like I was a kid and
Sure.
I was in my first relationship I'd ever been in, and then
Yeah.
that fell apart, and like I was she was leaving me for one of the boys, of course, like they do, and and so so
Happened.
so like Zandig was like, "Oh, you're weak," like
Oh
and
god.
it kind of gave off the I'm weak the impression of the guy, and
Sure.
he all on top of that had no respect for me. I'm like, I was a goofball. Like, why have any
Right.
respect? I get it, but
Yeah.
like
Well, I will say
I
this:
was
like during
bit
that
from
time, what was cool is everybody had a role, and everybody had an important role. You know what I mean? And so like that's what was stood out to me. During that time. But yeah, just seeing that era made me want to be a part of CZW, and I was fortunate to come in at the right time with what they needed at the time, and so it
I
worked out. But
I have like this deep down feeling like I still have like desire for CZW's growth. I still
yeah,
want to be a part of a CZW growth, but I don't know them now. Like it's not even a thing
right,
anymore. It's
yeah,
it is like a whole it's like a wrestling school now.
yeah.
It's not really what CZW was. It just happens to be those letters.
Yeah, but CZW and IWA Mid South, they will always have such an important place in the history
Hmm.
of what we love. They really will, man. And fortunate to be a part of both of them, man. And like, dude, it's been awesome just like catching up with you and just being on here as well. Um,
Yep.
you know, I'll say one more thing. Like one thing that has really helped me, especially like in recovery aspect, right now, like I'm well in sobriety, and like don't want it to go back to how it was and everything, and using that as fuel and motivation, and like it feels good to show up and be like, oh my god, Drake, like because when you're in the midst of like active addiction and active alcoholism, like you don't realize what, but like once you've like been clean for a while, sober for a while, it's what's cool, it's like people be like, oh my god, Drake, you look so healthy now, and like, like, oh, it's like, oh wow, like okay, because we're in the grind of it every day, and it's like, oh man, like okay, this stuff is working. But like another thing that's helped me a lot is I've gotten a little bit into the philosophy of Stoicism, right,
Oh,
as well. And like, there's this book that I read every day called the Daily Stoic, right? It's like meditations for every day, and just essentially about like turning trials in your life into triumphs, and you know, essentially for me, like it's like as long as I have air, as long as I'm breathing air and in my body, like I can make the best out of any situation, right? I can, learn from it, and dude, I know, and for me personally, as long as I don't drink or pick up, I know everything's going to work out. And like I hope that people can, there's unfortunately there's a lot of dudes that like, you know, look up to me, or like like I help inspire them to get into wrestling or whatever. And uh, again, I just hope that I mentioned in the beginning of this that the business has changed for the better in a lot of ways, and like I think what our generation went through, and like the brothers and sisters that we lost, like I feel like we can use that to help this generation not make those same mistakes,
right.
and just really capitalize on the raw natural talent that they have as well, without getting caught up in so much of the ugly stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I have just a couple other questions for you, and then I'll send you off.
Come on,
So
dude. Wait.
I um I had this question I thought of earlier, but I don't think it's even important. But a story that popped into my head when you were talking about that early ECW arena stuff,
Yeah,
and especially because we had been talking about Necro earlier. When I
yeah,
was first when I was first starting, before I ever debuted, uh, I was walking around for Dennis Shock. You remember who that is? The ring announcer for CZW
yes,
back then.
yes, yep.
I was walking around for him before the shows, getting everybody's height in hometown or weight in
Oh
hometown.
wow.
Uh, so I remember it was 2001. So it was Necro's arena debut, and I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, I'm walking around." I was a student at the time. I was like, "I'm walking around getting everybody's weight in hometown." And he's like, whatever he said. He said, I usually walk around about 250, but he's like, but however, I just took a dump. I just took a dump at the ECW arena, and he made this
Oh man.
joke about taking a dump at the ECW arena, and here I am, 25 years later, still talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what you said. I saw. I wrestled Nick Gage at the arena this past December. Right, it was his first match after being out for a little while, and um, and he even said this publicly. Like he was kind of lacking confidence at the time, and like before the match, I was like, Nick, you are the fucking king of this, dude. I was like, we're gonna go out there. I was like, you can fucking, God, I'm gonna take a ton of bumps for you. I'm gonna fucking bleed like crazy for you. And you are the fucking man, and don't you forget it. And then like, yeah, after the match was great and everything. I'm like, he's like, yeah, man, it fucking felt good. He goes, man, I'm back at my fight weight now too. I love that he said fighting weight. Like I'm at my fight weight.
This is little silly idiosyncrasies that certain wrestlers have.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely,
always
man.
funny. Now,
Shout
um,
out to Nick Gage. I love Dick, man. Love
yeah,
him, dude.
shout out to
I
Nicky. I
wouldn't
love
be.
Nicky. I haven't seen him since I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah,
Last time I spoke to him was when he had that accident
yeah.
in the helicopter. The helicopter. That was the last time I actually spoke to him. I
Wow.
called him. I called him in the hospital. That was the last time I actually talked to him on the phone. But
Yeah,
I know same going back to Ash. Ash like ran into him and told him that he was hanging around with me and
yeah.
I think he might have shouted me out in that conversation. So shout out to you in this conversation, Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
now what I want to do at this point is I want to kind of hypothetically gift you this show. Let's just say this is the very first episode of your new podcast, Evolving with Drake Younger, episode 1, the pilot, in a very Jerry Springer's final thought. And actually, you me saying that just made me think of another thing. And I'll sideline for a second before I finish in that. You and Sammy were going to go on Springer once. Remember that?
Yeah.
And you were trying to get Roxy involved, and
Yeah.
they called her, and you were like, "Oh," you were like, either you or Sammy told her like they know they're in on the work, they know like you can whatever,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you can kind of shoot with them, and then she was asking her questions. She, the producer, was asking Roxy questions, and she was like kind of breaking kayfabe the whole way,
Yeah.
and and then she started to like cry and freak out. And I don't know what to do. Then she said, "He said I could say anything to these people." So so
Well, they took Scotty. They took Scotty Vortex and Mickey Knuckles instead.
so 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 then she goes. Uh, then the producer goes like, "Are you in a relationship now? How'd that start?" And like started asking a lot of questions, and
Yeah.
then Roxy gave me the phone, and then I was answering questions, and
Oh
then
wow.
they booked us a ticket to come be guests on Jerry Springer. They flew
Okay.
us to Chicago. We stayed in the Hilton. They picked us up
Yeah.
in a limo, and then like the we were supposed to be like the main that night. The story that went on before us, there was this like 7-foot lady who was beating
Whoa.
the shit out of everybody. Like she was
Wow.
beating up everybody on the whole stage, and
Yeah.
it went over, and they were like, "Oh, we had to bump you. Oops, sorry." And we got paid and flown to Chicago, and like we
TV
didn't
time
have to go on,
remaining.
we didn't even have to go on Jerry Springer, but we had the whole experience of
Wow.
going on Jerry Springer. And
They didn't
that's
even
all
give you
thanks
the.
to you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad you got to go to Chicago and go to the Hilton and get a little money
That's
for,
good
for
education.
being there. Well, at least, yeah. Wow, that's in the equivalent of wrestling. It would be like the, hey, we're cut on time. Already in the ring from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like
Exactly.
the no entrance already in the ring.
Our match was the dark, brother.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad that happened. That's awesome. So
So the
you were saying about this final thought.
so in the Jerry Springer's final thought type of way, how would you take the most inspirational takeaways from this conversation and tie them into a nice like wrapped up pretty bow to present them to the world to have people be inspired to be a better version of themselves?
Sure, yeah, man. I will do my absolute best. I'll give it the old college try. So, first off, I want to thank Cory Kastle for having me here on Evolving. And from what I can take from this conversation is like, no matter how long you go without talking to somebody, like you can, you know, you've made some kind of an impact. What we have, the fortunate thing that we have in this business is making an impact on fans, on people out there in the world, but also making an impact on each other. A lot of times when we're in the locker rooms or when we're passing by, it's it just might be a handshake, dap up as the kids call it nowadays, might be a hug or whatever, and then you go on about your business. But I would just encourage those to like take the time to have some conversations, put life on pause for a minute. As I said earlier, stop and smell the roses. And again, no matter what you've gone through, no matter what you're going through at this moment, um, you could take from it and just make a life lesson out of it and just hopefully have a beautiful body of work to look back on. And look back on the peaks and valleys that you've enjoyed and that you've had to trudge on through. and just make that your story, man. Everybody has a story. Nobody's story is more special than anybody else's, but it is your story. And I'd be remiss if I just didn't take the opportunity to for young wrestlers in the game that are coming up, man, treat this business with respect. If you love this business, it'll love you back. It might not always seem that way, but it certainly will. Represent what we do well. And if you have a partner that is with you on this journey, that is enduring what the sacrifice that it takes to be with somebody in wrestling, love, love love wrestling with all your heart, but love that person with all your heart too. Don't put the business in front of that person, because whether they're with you when you start out or whether they're with you when you're making six figures, like that person is sacrificing for you to be able to live this crazy dream that we've all had. And so just treat that person with absolutely nothing but respect, um, in class. And so again, man, I hope that encapsulates it as well. And I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to watch this, and make sure you hit like and subscribe on Evolving with Cory Kastle. It's on all platforms down there, as you can see under the graphic.
Forgot to do something,
Yeah,
and it means a lot right now, and I have to make sure I go back to it in case because this is on the record stuff. Uh, I
yeah,
I
man.
I do this segment on the show, and we'll do the regular wrap up again later or whatever, however it goes. But it's not going to be that
Yeah,
exact thing. I'm just saying I don't want to overwhelm you, but uh, I do a segment on the show that we do all the time called audio time travel, right? So
yeah,
let's because I've talked many times about this being like a time capsule in who we are right now and what the world is right now. Uh,
yeah,
let's just say this recording is outliving us. It's going way into the future, and the ears that are coming across this recording right now today, the right now today of them is
yeah,
20 years from now. So it's your five kids stumble across this recording in
yeah,
2045. What are the
yeah.
time capsules, the time stamps on right now, the messages that you're giving right to those kids?
The time stamps right now. The time, man, be the best human that you can be. Um, Again, be grateful for what you have. Work for what you want, and uh, just treat people fairly, earn respect, and be loving and kind. Man, it sounds cheesy, but it goes a long way. It really does. There's times where you have to stand up for yourself. There's times where you do have to put your foot down. Um, but be appreciative and empathizing of what other people are going through and the situations that they're in and that they're coming up in. And just, this life is a gift, wrestling is a gift. And if my kids are listening to this 2045, Sophia, Braden, Malachi, Roman, Matthew, I love you kids so much. You're the absolute mean everything to me. And I am just so grateful to be your dad. And everything I do is for you kids, and I'm just crazy about you kids so much.
That's incredible. That's beautiful. Drake, did you do any impressions at
Thank
all?
you, buddy.
Did you do any impressions at all?
But do I do any impressions?
Yeah.
Oh, oh man, man, oh my god. Uh, everybody does a good Johnny Ace, right? Everybody's got a Johnny Ace.
That's a really good Johnny Ace. Yeah, that's a pretty
Yeah,
good one.
yeah,
So what I normally do is I say in your favorite impression, the way we wrap up the show, the ending line, the go home line
yeah,
is be fun, have safe, keep evolving. So say that in your
yeah.
best impression, in your favorite impression.
Be fun, have safe, keep evolving, and best of luck in your future endeavors.
Thanks, Drake.
All right, bro. Appreciate you, man.